This is Inside Outlands. I am your host, Nat Ryle, and joining me today is Chill, the leader of LOD. I got a lot of requests to hit you up, so I'm glad you saw this interview, man. I'm really looking forward to it. What's going on?
Not much, man. I'm glad to be here. I absolutely would love to address the Outlands community, man. I feel very passionate about the server, and I can't wait to talk to you.
Yeah, let's start off with who you are, who LOD is, what you guys are doing on the server, and just start there, I guess.
Yeah, so my in-game character name is Chill. My Discord handle is also Chill. I'm the guild master of a guild called LOD, which stands for Legends of Darkness. We started recruiting approximately 2 to 3 days before the server started, so it was kind of something I put together pretty quickly. Although the guild's been around since around 2000, I put everything together fairly quickly. I had originally been playing a server and had LOD set up on another server called Legacy UO, which is long since dead. But so there was a few people I had to call on, and the majority of people from that server joined a guild called Hero, and that's where the origins of the Akasha Chill rivalry came from.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I tried to get some background before, and I didn't get much info. So you did know Akasha previously before Outlands?
Yeah, so I think in '06 there was another server called, similar to like the branch of servers that IPY, IPY2, Relpor. There was a server that would later have offspring called Angel Island, and it was a unique rule set. On foot, as opposed to stat loss, you would get a trip to prison on an island called Angel Island Prison to either break out of jail or macro your counts out, and then you get released blue. It was a very active server, and a lot of people felt fervent about it. But Akasha played there in '06, and I did. So he was, a pretty solid tank, Halley tank PvPer, and LOD was on that guild on that server as well as a guild. We actually fought quite a bit on that server in '06, and I guess maybe we fought till '09, and I think he stopped playing, or he wasn't playing as much then. So we had a early history on another server, and then recently they've remade the server, and so all of our mutual acquaintances or UO friends were playing that server, and I had been playing it. I thought for the most part the majority of the group I had kind of given like a loose idea of coming together as ex-Angel Island players and moving to Outlands, because I had been beta testing Outlands for a while. I thought it was a wonderful server, man, and I wanted to get everyone in there together. The caliber of players that Angel Island had, it was very good, man. We had great players, ex-Siege Perilous players, so they were really tough, and great PvPers. I mean, they're kind of guys that get the job done, but so I had stopped playing UO for about 6 months before Outlands release came out, and at that time kind of wiggled his way in there and undercut my recruiting efforts because I was gone. And the people that I came back like a week before Outlands was launched to UO, and when I came back they were already extremely organized in Discord in the Hero Guild, and I got about 30% of those guys back. The server admin of that server ended up migrating over with Hero, but I got about 30% of the guys back, and that was the beginning of the LOD and Hero war.
Yeah, I know Hero started the server pretty strong. They haven't really been that much lately, but let's go in a different direction here. What brought you to Outlands? What attracted you to this shard? Is it just the population and PvP that would bring, or is there anything else?
So I think in 2016, on New Year's Eve, it's like the end of the night, man, and I was a little bit lit up, a little toasted, and I was just Googling Ultima Online in like 2016. Had just figured that UO would be dead by then, and somehow or another, like one forum linked to another forum, and I ended up in the Outlands Discord, just kind of messing around and maybe talking a little smack in there. And so that's where I first came upon Outlands, was I think in 2016, New Year's Eve, that Discord. And so I saw a lot of cool things I liked. So I stuck around in there, and I'd eventually do maybe a significant bit of beta testing. But that's when I first ran into Outlands. I looked at a lot of the systems they had and the player base they had, and it seemed pretty rock solid to me.
So launch came around. You didn't maybe have the number of players you wanted with your only a week of recruiting. But how did launch go for you guys? Did you like, get the house you wanted or get plans in order for the launch?
Oh man, yeah, I got very fond memories of launch. So I do this rush recruiting in 3 days. Just anybody that I was could possibly know as an acquaintance, ex former Angel Island players. I had been a 5x PvP or on hybrid, so I tried to use that angle to get people. And amazingly, I was able to pull, I think, 100 people in the Discord within the first 3 days. I got 100 people. And of those 100 people, maybe there were 15 that were dedicated and on board for the guild activities and such. So we started out, and I remember the Shelter Island dungeon was a complete hell house. It was so packed you
Oh
couldn't get it.
God,
The
yeah,
lag.
that thing was awful.
Oh man, yeah, the lag was terrible. You couldn't kill any mobs. I swear to God, I don't think I looted one mob in Shelter Island dungeon. It's just by the time you get there, the corpse would be bone dry. You couldn't do enough damage on it, and it was just amazing. I was blown away the population. It was the first time that I think I've ever experienced the birth of a server with a population that would at one point in time peak at 2K. So that was amazing, man. That was really special for me.
Yeah, I think I hit 900 that first day, maybe 650, and I mean they over doubled that number the next couple of weeks, which is just incredible.
Yeah, for sure, man. So as far as like the houses go, okay, so we started at Shelter Island, and we're all kind of keeping tabs. We had a strategy set up. We were gonna farm the overlords that were like I think west of Andaria. There's a little double ogre lord tower up there. So that was our original strategy. We had some ambitions to get boats and make stealthers and take over wrecks, islands and stuff with our stealthers, killing them and getting the deeds. When push came to shove, we never got around to any of that stuff. But for the most part, it was just a lot of us killing mobs in dungeons. I remember we had a hell of a hard time getting horses. I think what happened was the horse spawns were too wide in their spawn radius. So a lot of times they'd be getting stuck inside of ponds and rivers and tiles that you couldn't tame them at. So you had a serious shortage of horses. And I remember at launch, if you had a horse, man, you were somebody, dude. You were doing it. I mean, you would just get slaughtered. I think there was like a couple reds that had like 50, 60 counts within the first couple hours, and they all were on horseback, dude. So, you had to get a horse. Otherwise, you're just going to get PK'd for your 300 gold and 20 bandages.
Yeah, I guess if you went just bought a horse in the stable master and you died in PvP, that horse would you have to go spend another 750 gold, which would be no good at a launch from gold's at a premium.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. So, we had just kind of like a loose group of Dexter newbies, like hovering around 70 skill. You got better skill gain in the dungeon, but you're losing out on gold, and there were so many plots to get, so little time. So I think the majority of LOD left Shelter Island. We had a couple really awesome key crafters that immediately left Shelter and started mining. And the mining wars were real, man. People were PKing each other like crazy in the mines. A mine PK was a viable build, even if it had 50 skills in archery. So that was really cool there. Our first house that LOD had was the very first house outside of Mausoleum. Ancient Alien, or Floop, owns that house now. But when you go to recall to the entrance of Mausoleum, it's that first plot that was right there. I think that was the very first house we got. I had maybe one of the top 15 houses, and for whatever reason, I kick myself to this day, whatever reason, dude, I love this overland spawn outside of Andaria. It's where a lot of people tame the snowdrifts, and I put it near that overland spawn. It was like the first house there, but again, it was a top 15 house, and for whatever reason, I just put it there, not even thinking of the future of how valuable Moongate House would be. I put mine next to my favorite overland spawn out of convenience and sake, and I kick myself now. But aside from that, we had a couple of the early houses. One of our guys got a Cambrian Moongate house. A lot of us just picked plots out of convenience like I did, but there was no real pooling effort to get some huge guild house originally. There was no huge lumberjack scheme like Hero. There was more of just a more casual, just kind of check in as you go type deal. We're all working on our characters, and so we didn't really get any of the key spots at the moon gates. We more just placed at casual overland spots.
So where'd you guys head from there? And so you got a decent enough launch. You have housing, and what kind of direction did you take LOD next, as far as boss content, things like that?
So we have about 15 dedicated LOD members out of maybe 100 people in the Discord. People are coming and going. We had all these names like Chad, the GM of Boys before he founded his guild, D Medici before he founded PvP, a couple members of Money, and they're seeing what was going to go happen with their guild before they came here. Just we had a lot of interesting people. Gluttony was in there from STS. Also, all these like well-known people hanging out, talking, being part of the LD community there. So we have 15 people, and we're all working together. We're bonding. We're spending a lot of time playing. I know some guys kind of no life did for the first week, didn't sleep much, just playing, having a tremendous time, man. Just like taking you back to the days when you used to play UO as kids. So everyone was having a blast, and we started getting our skills up. And I kept recruiting, which is one of my strong points, I think, as a guild master. And so we got more and more people. So eventually, we thought, okay, hey, we got some characters now. We have 10, 15, 20, 25 people in Discord voice that all want some activities to do, you know what I mean? We have this awesome shard with all this unique content. Let's go out and explore it, because a lot of people didn't do beta. So that's when we started getting into bosses. I think some of our first attempts at bosses, I think we went with 25 Dexers. I mean, hold on, I take that back. There was maybe 2-3 mages, maybe like 1 or 2 archers, and maybe 20 just like non-matching armor Dexter newbies marching down to Mausoleum main boss, because the mini boss wasn't up, but the main was. We went marching in there, and the Elder Vampires, man, they gave us a hell of a time on the way down. I mean, we lost about half of our Dexters on the way down to the Elder Vampires. And we finally get in the boss room, and there was a guild called BYOB. It was, I guess, Bring Your Own Blacksmith, and they remember
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were the original Mausoleum griefers. They all had stealthing, and they would wait you to go try the bosses or the Elder Vampires, and they would just come over and loot your bodies. And we ran in the boss room, 25 deep, like 2-3 mages, maybe 1 or 2 archers, and the boss's AoE is really, really harsh to newbie Dexters, low resist, no aspect, and basically, yeah, it just wiped us. Literally, the first AoE we had like 20 bodies down there. Some of us made it away. We're all laughing and having a great time in Discord. It's epic. There's an army of us, and these BYB guys come over and they start looting, and it just ensues to be a kind of a shit show almost, And that was, I think, our very first boss attempt. After that, we hit the easy minis like Ossuary mini boss. We were doing that with 3 or 4 people every single day for weeks and weeks and weeks. We started branching out to another easy mini boss, which is Maw's mini boss. Nucera mini boss. We used to 3-man Nucera mini boss with summoners. We started doing like Inferno mini boss, which is a really fun boss, man. As a matter of fact, all the bosses are really fun and tremendously unique. I had no idea prior to Outlands that you could make bosses like that, because it's always been a champ system with waves. In retrospect, tremendously boring, monotonous. Okay, great, we killed a wave of slimes. Now we have to kill a wave of ratmen. But these bosses, man, they play like bosses out of a game like Zelda. You have you have to use a strategy. They do really awesome, unique, graphical attacks, maneuvers, things that I never thought I'd see in Ultima Online. I'm saying for the first time in 2019, I'm thinking, wow, I'm really impressed, man. The server is awesome. It's amazing. It blew my expectations out of the water. And coming from a lifelong PvPer, I said, dude, I like bosses, man. I want to do more bosses. They're a lot of fun. And everyone in our guild loved them, man. We really did. So we started doing all the bosses. And I think from month 2 to 4, I think those were the peak times for LED doing bosses. Man, I think we were probably doing roughly about 70% of bosses from month 2 to month 4. I think the first month, Money Guild killed on bosses. They done beta testing. They had a strong launch as well, very organized, and I think they got a tremendous lead in that first month when everyone was kind of learning the ropes.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, after that, we kind of took over a lot from month 2 to 4, but we did so many bosses, upgraded to main bosses, which were fun too. But as this was going along, we were all having a great time. The LED community was growing. We're getting more and more people. Um, we're getting like 20, 30 guys in voice every night. All of us were bonding. It was the glory days, man, the golden ages, and it was a lot of fun. We all enjoyed it. We all got rich off it. I know many LED members that were there from the beginning made literally millions off of bosses, and it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, that's where all the high end gear is. That's how you get an aspect early, and yeah, definitely great loot. It's for sure one of the more unique systems in Outlands. I guess the shrines are kind of similar to the old champion style of end game content, whereas boss are just really epic, and that stuff's no joke. It takes a lot of coordination. I know all about the Dexter army. That's all we can throw at it is this giant Dexter army. It doesn't really work that well, but that's cool to hear. So what'd you guys do next after maybe that phase of your guild?
Just to touch on the BB Dex army, we had at one point in time we had one of the most well known and most viewed Yo streamers called Moreland TV, and he actually streamed that first boss fight. And outside the dungeon, there was there was obviously like 20 of us, but there was like 15 BB. And I sent a DM to Papa Carl because at that time I think he was playing. I said, "Hey man, there's 15 of you guys. Do you want to go do Maul's boss with us?" And I forget what he said, but I think they stopped at level 2 and were doing some other farming at the time. But yeah, man, the BB Dex armor was real. I remember firsthand.
So let's go ahead and move in another direction here. What kind of typical players are you looking for? I mean, you're out of the launch area. You're pretty well established here now. We're 5-6 months into the server. You know, who are you looking to join LOD?
Right. So I think we've got pretty stringent recruiting requirements, but for the most part, we're all middle-aged men. We have wives and children. We're averaging about maybe luckily 1 to 3 hours a night. Some nights we don't get to play. So I think overall we're pretty casual player base, but we like to be successful. We like to play at a high level, but for the most part, we're literally like the most average Joe guys. We all wives, children, 9 to 5s, all that kind of stuff, and so there's that. We can't really play as much as other guilds, and we don't expect any new recruits to either. That being said, we're looking for somebody that's active, that's not gonna play for out of hand amount and then burn out after a little while. We're looking for somebody that's got, like, I don't know, level 4, 5, 6 aspect or up and above. Somebody that can hold their own in PvP, but at the same time can also PvE. Not looking for a complete noob, but we're looking for maybe a more skilled player. We don't take anyone under 18. Been there, done that. That's not worked. We don't do immature players. We're looking for just the same kind of guys we are, man. And hopefully they can hold their own in PvP. If not, we take them as they are, man. We'll train them up, and we've got PvP training sessions. There's factions, which is like newbie loot. So that's popular training facet for us. So we like to get maybe a couple more tamers in there, a lot more PvPers. And again, this is all just to protect LOD's interests. And if it's CCCs or bosses or anything like that, we've got enough people. We'd have enough people for the next 5 years. We've got a lot of people, but I just see it as addition to the community, man. There's still a lot of good people out there in the community we would like to see in LOD.
So, You're talking a little bit of PvP here. What kind of rivalries do you have? You mentioned Akasha's Guild, and that there's Wrecked. What's some big rivalries for LOD? Who you guys notoriously fought the last couple months?
All right, so just I'll do a quick rehash of the hero rivalry. So Kasha had kind of, and it's I'm partially to blame. I had quit UO for 6 months prior to Outlands launch, and I just kind of left some feelers out there with a lot of people in that ex Angel Island community about, hey, let's make an ex Angel Island guild at launch. And I quit UO, and he came along, and he was very organized and methodical in his recruiting, and he more or less swept all that. And I didn't know about this until I came back about 2 3 days prior to launch. So I immediately had the animosity towards Akasha, who even before then we'd been PvP rivals. So that just added fuel to the fire. So our whole thing at LOD was, yeah, bosses and getting started and community and helping each other and stuff. But we're like, okay, our enemies are going to be hero. Those are going to be our rivals. We're going to kill them in dungeons, more or less KOS, which is kill on sight. So we kind of turned up a lot, and there were like we had a bad week. Maybe we might lose a boss to them or somebody else, and then there'd be good weeks where we might get all their bosses and all their mini bosses and stuff. But I think there were certain weeks, a couple concurrent weeks, where we really turned up the pressure and almost made a pressure cooker of that guild. And I had guys from here messaging me to sell their island plots. It kind of was like the pressure, and me being friends with a lot of guys in that guild was kind of crumbling the guild from the inside. And so I saw the collapse of Hero coming. We were just putting too much pressure on him, and from my viewpoint, I don't think Akasha was getting the production he wanted from his guild members, because when we turned up the pressure, we saw the percentage of that guild's participation just plummet. I mean, they went from maybe being able to field 20 to being able to field 5 after 2 3 weeks of us taking all their bosses, and things got really bad, and then that guild collapsed. And so after that collapse, okay, we're like, okay, we need new rivals. So I think after that, our new rivals were Money Guild, and they were, tremendous adversaries, much respect, good guild, good PvPers.
Yeah, they're still a pretty strong force here in Outlands.
Yeah, they're certainly elitists, man. So I mean, I'll give them their due props. They're a good guild, organized, all that stuff. But I'm not too keen on their leadership. I feel like with great power comes great responsibility, and I'm not very pleased with the way that, if you will, the premier or the number one guild in prestige. I'm not a big fan of the leadership there. I think he has the potential to be a really positive force in the Outlands community, and I don't think he is. But anyway, so I think today, at this point in time, our number one rival, because the Money Guild thing's been going on for a while, it's maybe a little bit stale. Maybe we want new enemies. I think right now our target's set on Wrecked, because they do like the similar guild. They like the PvE. They do bosses like we do. A little bit of PvP, not much. And in LOD's direction, through my leadership, I think that I wouldn't mind repeating a hero on Direct, because a very similar guild, a lot of the same members too. I think they're very susceptible to outside pressure, man. As a matter of fact, we turned up on them recently, and we've seen a lot of their members leave to guilds like SUP. A few of them left to Boys. You know, I can't stress enough the importance of getting large PvP battle victories at bosses, at Corpse Creek. All these different things factor into how successful a guild's going to be, and it tests the limits to see how the leadership handles loss, and.
Yeah, people don't like to lose at all.
Not at all. Yeah,
they'll be cool with the ship as long as it's going. When that ship starts to sink, they'll bail on it in a hurry. I don't know that it's happened with Wrecked currently, but and I would like to get the opposing story from Akasha's guild. I don't know if Kasha would ever come on here, but maybe someday I'll get that interview to hear his side of what happened to Hero. Wrecked is a cool opponent, I think, for you, because they're equally sized, probably equally skilled. I think it's you're not fighting above your weight class. You're not fighting below it. Uh, they'll put up a fight for you guys for sure. So that seems like a good rivalry to have, I think.
It's probably healthy for the server as well. You don't want a big guild beating up a small one. The strategy behind us going after Wrecked is because we want to, and to be fair, we want to crush Wrecked. We want to crush Wrecked, and with their remains, we want to build up LOD into a top tier opponent for Money Guild. I don't think anyone wants to see Money Guild be successful in the server. I think they're not good for the server. I think the server deserves better, man. This is an amazing server, and to have a group as toxic as Money Guild that exploits bugs, that raid shrine bosses as in killing newbies with 70 skills and store-bought armor at shrines. I mean, it kind of it's frustrating to me to see people do that. Because they're abusing their power. They're allying large other PK guilds to achieve these means of owning these noobs and shrines. But I think one of the things that irritates me the most with that guild is that they were beta testers, and so they were able to find all these different bugs. And instead of turning the bugs in, they would turn around and using them. They're using these bugs. They have this long list of bugs. They're using these bugs against LOD at these big battles, these big 30 on 30 at Mount Petrum main boss. They're down there throwing fields on teleporters, which is supposedly not allowed. They're finding workarounds in there. We slaughter 15 of their reds at a 30v30 battle at Mount Petrum, and then they've got these bugs to make their reds now they can attack blues. And all these things were reported and documented, and no punishments were ever given out. But it was just tremendously frustrating me as a guild master and a player, and I also as a beta tester that actively tried to build Outlands up, to see a group of other beta testers abuse these bugs that they could have turned in and made Outlands that much better.
Yeah, you're not the only person to say that or have similar stories from that guild. I don't know personally what's all true because I haven't seen most of it, but that's definitely the perception community-wise that they'll exploit before report. But I mean, I don't know. The bans aren't issued. We're not really hearing anything from Luthers and Owen about it. So kind of maybe take it with a grain of salt what actually is going down there.
So I mean, that's the number one goal, LOD, is we want to dehorse Money Guild long term. Short term, they've got a tremendous prestige lead. Good for them. They no-lifed it. They played a lot. More props to them, man. I wish I was in their situation to play that much. They're probably enjoying it a lot. So they've earned that. They've earned the number one spot. They've played enough to warrant that number one spot. I've said my piece on them.
Let's say they got the number one spot. We have a new system coming in very shortly with the new prestige, not prestige, but the chain system that lets you summon bosses. They even hint that it has maybe a new system for some protection around that for being rated for a little bit. There's the Omniboss. Are you excited for any of those? And what do you think that means for LOD?
Oh yeah, not only am I very excited at the idea of an Omniboss and how cool that word sounds, Omniboss, but I think the whole guild is very excited as well. I know a lot of our guys that started at launch are kind of getting maybe the new content's not coming as fast as they'd like, so perhaps they're a little bit burned out. But I think as soon as the new patch gets released, it's going to reinvigorate LOD's base and reinvigorate a lot of the server, a lot of the boss fights. I think it's going to make as soon as the patch comes out, it's going to make the importance of getting early bosses and these boss fights so much more important. So you're going to see a tremendous amount of activity at bosses. You're going to see a huge influx of players get recruited into boss guilds or PvE guilds. I personally am going to go out on a limb here and say LODs can be the first people on the server to kill the Omniboss. I said it. You can quote me. We're getting that Omniboss first. We're in everyone in the guilds. We're on the same page. I'm glad that Money Guild could get some of these bosses and a lot of experience, and Rack to get the experience too, because I want it to be as competitive as possible. But I think we absolutely have the personnel, the experience, and the leadership to get the Omniboss first. So that's what we're going for, man. The chain link sounds like an excellent end game system. Like Owen said in his podcast, the end game items were given out. They were given out too easily. So hopefully the chinks have a real significance, a real rarity there. So I'm looking forward to that. One thing I wanted to touch on, which is somewhat related to that, is that I know they're getting ready to release Guild Islands
Oh,
out
right.
too.
Yeah, the prestige stuff for your guild, right? So the more points you get, you can unlock hues and clothing stuff and guild islands, which that's a huge goal. I forget what the guild island number is. It's a lot.
The way I feel about that is LOD already has a Guild Island, and Money Guild doesn't. They've got a caravan on theirs, so that's the thing they've been asking for is that island, and we already have it. So I don't know, man. I'm not really terribly motivated to get that much higher because we already have it. I mean, maybe we'll get something else instead. I just don't see it, man. Kind of was blindsided. I just thought that somebody getting a unique island made by a GM was just like a myth, but it turns out it's real, man.
I think Owen reached deep in his satchel and had to pull something out. I mean, I don't know how much thought he had put in it, but he mentioned on the podcast that people were starting to reach 5K prestige, and he had promised something for guilds, and this is what they came up with. The numbers seem so far out now that I don't know who or when they'll reach it, but yeah, it's definitely a thing. He can't place it on the overland, so it has to be an island, so it can be off the map, right? So you can't use up existing space. So yeah, it's a huge goal for anyone that cares about it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a tremendous goal. It's absolutely a long-term goal. I know it's going to diminish our Guild Island's value. We have one already, so I know it's the only Guild Island so far. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of cool that they can reach the level that LOD's at in that regard. That's pretty cool there too. But
Well, I know of a couple of the Guild Islands. I know of at least one. Jack Scallywag, he took me out on his boat, and they had a whole island locked down just for them. But that's what they care about, that those guys live for the sea content.
cheers,
So
man! Props to them, dude.
not surprised.
Oh yeah, it's a nice feature to have as a guild.
Your personality here on Outlands is definitely that of what I like to call a heel character. You know, are you familiar with wrestling? You're the bad guy people love to hate, it seems like, which I think is fine. That gives people some reason to go out and fight. A good example of you playing this type of personality is really just your recruitment post in Discord, which you put up a couple days ago, and you kind of call out all the big guilds, and to give people reasons to come to your guild.
Oh yeah, that
But
gem.
it's
That's a real gem right there.
yeah, I'll read a little part of it. Be a part of the boys wave that's migrating over now. So you're calling out boys. Is your GM sub 20 and terribly immature? Do they have zero ability to do bosses? Does your GM lack the backbone to go toe to toe with large alliances? We have none of those problems. I would encourage anyone unsatisfied, unsure of their future DM. I mean, on and on it goes, right? So it's definitely that of someone that loves to stir controversy and just go right at people's throats, it seems like, and get that hate. While at the same time recruiting. So does this actually help your recruitment, do you think? Do you get the players you want from this style of recruiting?
I think we got about 6 since I posted that mentioned that. We've declined, I don't know, maybe 10 more, so about 16. I think it's not like a boom, everyone quits at once. I think it puts a crack in a foundation. And please don't take any offense to this, but it puts a crack in the foundation of a guild like BB where they're not doing bosses. They've been farming for forever. I'm sure they've got plenty of gold, but you can only kill so many monsters, man. You want to kill these cool, dynamic bosses. And maybe it puts a crack in a guild like BB. Maybe boys loses a fight and their GM yells at them like they're children and they're like 36 and stuff like that. I mean, who knows?
Oh, I've been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that I'm a dynamic player and I'm a dynamic GM. And I think UO is so old. It's 20 years plus. I've been playing for 20 years that UO, not in general, has gotten stale, but it's the players that make UO fun. You know what I mean? Because you could just play any RPG instead of an MMORPG. It's the players that make it fun. So I just try to keep UO exciting. I don't like it for it to get stale. I like dynamic players. I'm a dynamic player. And so I like to keep everything lively. I like to invigorate my base. I like to kind of fire everyone up a little bit. You're right.
Do your players respond to this? Do you find, or do you have players inside your guild, maybe talk to you privately, like, hey man, like that's a bit much. Maybe dial it back some, or do people tend to have your back, inside and out?
I think I put a lot of smiles on LOD guild members' faces on a daily basis, man. And I think they appreciate it, dude. And I'll talk a little bit about the origins of LOD. It started in 2000 on a server, actually maybe one of the first private servers called Legends of Darkness. It was Moonglow based, so it was on the island. The rest of the world was blocked off with boulders, whatever else, and there were gates to dungeons. I think it was T2A because that's all there was back then. It was a Sphere server. It eventually went down, I think, in 2003. There were 3 renditions of it: Legends of Darkness 1, Legends of Darkness 2, Legends of Darkness 3. So after the third one went down, a large group of the ex-players that played there got together, and we formed this guild, Legends of Darkness, just based on the fun times we had on this Moonglow-based server. And from there, we played on a little bit on the very, very, very first Run UO Gamer servers. We played on all the other big servers or whatever, just the small group of us. And we eventually came to the server Angel Island I keep mentioning. And from there, LOD morphed into an elite PK guild with maybe we could field 5 members, tops 5, just 5, all PKs, and all we would do is PK and PvP, and a very elite group of players there. But man, we used to just take on everybody. We were pit bulls. So at the very core of LOD, there's that maybe pit bull mentality of, let's fight everybody. I'm trying to instill a little bit of that in this current guild that is much more friendly, PvE friendly and PvM friendly, but at the very core of LOD has very maybe violent beginnings. So we don't have an issue with beefing with guilds, or at least I don't as guild master. And I think that mentality is transferring over to a lot of LOD players that say, hey, it's more fun to fight people in Ultima Online than it is to be friends with them. We're not like a bunch of griefers. You're not going to see us res killing newbies or killing newbies in Ossuary level 1 and stuff like that. It's not about griefing. I think it's just about the warlike mentality, the mentality of domination there.
So I didn't play with you on those other shards, but was your play style there the same, as in you're going to rile the community up, you're going to play the heel, be the person that they love to hate? Did you do the same thing there, or were you more?
It was even worse there, man. It was much more worse. I think I checked my UO Gamers forum account in 01, and I think I ended up getting banned from that forum. I remember I played Angel Island for 4 or 5 years in 06, maybe 06, 05. It was up for the longest time. It was ran by the GM Adamant, who was the famous comic guy. A lot of people know him. He's very famous. I think his comics are still on, maybe Stratix or something. So yeah, we played there, and on that server, I was the villain too. Very dynamic player there. Good at PvP. I've been fairly good at PvP.
I say heal, and you say dynamic. So I like our choice of words.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, like I said, it's my story. I'll tell I want it.
Yeah, I hear you. So why do you antagonize so many players here on the server? It's not even so much that you might win your fight, but then after you win your fight, you're gonna run your mouth too, which is, that's typical of PvP, I guess. But that's gonna bring this backlash against you too. Do you just welcome that usually, or is it a part of your persona, a part of your guild?
I think I have this thirst for the tears of the defeated, man. I think that's what it is. No, I'm kidding, but
that's an EVE Online term where you drink the tears, or is that from? Yeah, it might be from South Park.
Who knows? It's just so many MMOs and so much online game playing, but I don't know. It doesn't really bother me too much, man. I just I think there's just a lot of bullshit that goes on in Discord, a lot of bullshit players, and I think that I'd like to sometimes like to be the voice of reason and calling people out on their bullshit. It's just, I don't know, maybe not even a hobby of mine, but it's just something that I do. And like I said, it doesn't bother me. I don't think it bothers anyone else in my guild. Most people get a laugh out of it. They know that that's who I am as a person. I get to express myself. I'm a unique person, and everyone, enjoys that about me. It gives me, I suppose, a bit of charisma to them. And people like people who aren't cookie cutter people. People like people that think individually and uniquely. And so that's something that I think I add to the community and I add as a guild member. I think that overall the responses have been great, man. We've had a lot of guilds, like for example, LOD's allied to CNN, a very powerful guild too. Maybe one of the more, if not the most powerful alliance right now is LOD and CNN because they're fielding 10, 12 all red mages that X heal brilliantly, sync heal brilliantly, and we bring a lot to the table too, and so we're winning CCCs left and right, winning factions left and right, doing bosses with impunity. I've had a lot of key alliances, big alliances. I had alliance with Sin, which had I want to keep, I could have kept, but I felt like we were contributing a lot more than they were. I could have had a couple alliances.
You're talking about your current alliances, the past alliances.
Yeah, I'm talking about the current and past alliances. Correct.
You're currently allied with CNN. Is that it, or do you have more in the works?
No, so us and CNN are allied, and I think we're going to keep it that way, where it's just us two. I mean, it seems right. We're really close. We do all kinds of stuff, activities together, share voice together. Good group of guys. I like them tremendously. They like us. Rock solid. So I think we're going to keep that. We were allied with a guild called Goon for a while. That was very, very, very beginning. So I think it was Goon, then Sin, and then CNN. I think that's been it. There was some brief talk with Sup because I know the GM of Sup really likes my, as you call it, persona in Discord. We get along brilliantly. I think that us, LOD and Sup, are friends, and potentially, if we ever felt the need, maybe we could be more than that. There was like a brief time when we were allied, and we left on good terms or whatever. Just we were with both under the agreement that if we need help fighting Money Guild or whatever, that we would rather kill Money Guild noobs than fight each other because obviously they're very hated. So it's like, yeah, the alliance with CNN is working great. Tremendously happy with it. Everyone in the guild loves it. They like us. We like them. So I think we're going to keep it with just that.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I wonder about you've buried the relationship with Rect, and you guys have been fighting them, like you said, lately. But that would be your best alliance to actually overthrow a Money Guild for content here, I would think. Instead, you're fighting, trying to burn that bridge. I'm not a guild leader, and you probably can't go back and fix that relationship now anyways. But we're watching the two medium-sized guilds fight it out while the big guild, the big boy here, just keeps doing his thing.
Yeah, the plot thickens, man. Wouldn't that be something if LOD and Rect allied? I think originally Rect, before the animosity started between us, I think Rect had put out a soft offer out there for alliance, and we turned it down. But I think that whatever guild takes on Money Guild, as they say for reals, whatever guild takes them on is going to need to be large. It's going to be unified. I don't think that two guilds broken communication and not shared voice and two entities are going to be able to take them out. I think it's going to have to be one guild that wins the battle between Rect and LOD that's going to have to unify a lot of maybe smaller guilds and get them in, and it's going to have a really solid group of guys that's going to beat them. But you know what I think? I think at the rate that Money Guild's playing, I almost expect them to burn out, man. I really do. They were just playing way too much. I don't think you can play that much U after 20 years without getting burned out.
Yeah, can't maintain it. What are you most excited for? And it's coming in the future for Outlands.
Okay, so I think number one is Omnibosses. It's going to be lovely. I'm looking forward to that. I think number two is probably going to be faction sigils because I know it's going to invigorate a lot of LOD's base. I'm really interested to see what systems come out as far as rewards and incentivizing faction sigils. I'm looking forward to the increase of damage to basic e-bolts and explos because typically the majority of the PvPers have came from servers where a sync dump, which is explo e-bolt times two with two players, it kills a player. And in this server, a lot of situations it doesn't. So I'm looking forward to that as far as a PvP change. But I think that's my top three.
Yeah, does that change fix that? Does it cause a synced up from two to kill a player with those tweaks?
I think that just from reading it, I think that's the intention. But I've yet to go on Test Center and find out myself.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not really experienced PvP either, but that it is a like 5-10% damage boost, something like that. So that might be the case. So if you could change one thing though, what would that be? You think?
That's $1 million question. That's a tough one, man. Um,
Or maybe something in the past that you wish had gone down differently.
I think
Some kind of change that
my
they missed over.
main thing with this server was I wish that Money Guild had been held responsible for all the exploits they'd done. I think that it really bothered me. It really bothered my guild that they were habitually abusing the systems and getting whatever they want. And they were being documented, man. They were being recorded, and it didn't seem like they were getting punished. And so it put a damper on my experience. So I think that was maybe the biggest annoyance I've had with the server thus far. But I mean, that's a small thing in a very overall positive experience, man. Outlands has been amazing. It's been a really good UO experience.
Yeah, I like to be impartial here, so I would love to get someone from that guild on to maybe speak on that too and give their side or their opinions on it. I know it's definitely allegations that get thrown out against them a lot, but I don't know how true it is. So I definitely love to hear from someone in that guild. So I'll try to get that in the works here in the next couple of weeks. We can see if we can hear from someone in money.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it too. I would certainly tune in.
Yeah. Anything else? Anything we missed, or anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, so I think another thing is that there was a guild on here called Meat. There was a few players in it from a variety of shards. They're pretty well known. They were all in LOD on the server that came out in 2017, where LOD we started there, and or LOD as a guild was there, and we took complete control over that server. It was a small server. It was one of the clones of Angel Island, so we took immediate control, had a blast, just completely ran the server. Probably a little too big for such a small server, and because of the success of me starting that guild on there, that's the only reason why I think I wanted to be a guild leader on Outlands, because the past success, and I felt like I owed it to those guys that were still fairly active. And there were a lot of other guys too. We've got a guy that played on the original Legends of Darkness in 2000 in the guild, and we've got a couple other guys that have been there with us in the journey from 2000 to 2019, which is really special and cool. But for me as a GM, a lot of people don't realize it's a tremendous constraint on your time. You spend a lot of time doing managerial things, a lot of time playing Peacemaker, a lot of time organizing things, and maybe not so much time being able to play as a solo player or maybe the play style you want to play. So although, I would absolutely be a guild master again in a heartbeat. I love LOD to death. There's pros and cons to being in such a role. I mean, a bit of anonymity and being able to roam such a beautiful map freely would be a wonderful thing. But LOD is such a big guild that there's literally something going on all the time. And that was actually a big complaint, was that a lot of people in LOD felt like there was actually too much going on as a guild, that we were doing bosses 24/7 and there was always PvP and stuff like that. A lot of people feel like they couldn't do as much character development and as much as world wandering, kind of bullshitting around as they'd like to do. So I think in the recent months, maybe particularly the last month, I feel like LOD as a guild felt very much accomplished in the boss scene and everything else, and so we kind of took a step back and let a lot of our members kind of get a breath of fresh air to do as they want without as much objective playing. Like, okay, we need to do X amount of bosses a day, and we need to do this many faction struggles. So I think that's been really healthy for our guild. I think that LOD as a guild is not at full strength right now. We have so many inactive players that started at launch. They got burned out because we all loved Outland so much. We played it so much, and then maybe we burned out month 3, month 4. But from what I hear, man, I'm getting a lot of interest in this Omniboss, man. So I expect when this patch comes out, the Omniboss, that we'll see a surge in the overall population and probably a very big surge in the LOD population again as we compete for the Omniboss.
Yeah, I think you're right. Your guild's going to surge. I think my guild will surge. So will just the whole population of Outlands will. It's the biggest chunk of content we've had dropped on us in forever, really, which is surprising because dang, the server's only 6 months old. We don't deserve this much content this fast, but we're getting it, so I think we'll take it for sure.
Yeah, gladly, man. I know we ate up Cavernum for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know, Omnibosses, you may be the first one to get it. I don't know that you get to keep it because you got a 10-minute window or something to kill it yourself, which is probably impossible. And
yeah, I know that's a lot, man.
And then the whole server will be there on top of you, which will be a glorious shit show, which I'm sure everyone wants to see.
Yeah, I know. I tell you what, man. As a favor to you, I think when we do get the Omniboss, I'll get one of our guys to stream it with a huge delay. So that way, at least the first Omniboss will be documented.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I'll if it happens, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see it. I'm not so sure it'll be you, but I think you got as good a shot as any of the other guilds. So, you got anything else we want to talk about, or?
I think that more or less wraps it up. Just, I guess, maybe a bit more background information on me. 98 UO player. I think just hanging out with friends one day, school friends, and a buddy called me over to his house, and I experienced Ultima Online the first time. And so we started playing Ultima Online together. Originally, I think you got a month for free, so did that, experienced it, liked it. I think we were playing on 3 servers back then. We were playing on Test Center, AOL Legends, and Atlantic. Having a blast. Yeah, just having a lot of fun, man. I was just asking about quests and stuff like that. And so we played those servers until I think Tramiel came out, and then we moved to free servers, and that's again right at the same time that Legends of Darkness came out, and it came out on a system called Ultima Online Gateway or UO Gateway, developed by a guy named Mixter Fixit, and so Sphere, Wolfpack, this was pre gamers came out, pre-serve UO, pre-run UO. Maybe the glory days of the golden age of free servers. That was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, maybe the glory days of buggy servers, I imagine. But yeah, it might have been cool to be there at ground zero for sure.
But yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think I actually had a staff character on one of the original Run UO Gamers servers. I started as a counselor, and they told me, I think, and this was in 01 or 2000, I think they told me I'd get a promotion if I built a new dueling arena. And so I spent, I don't know, it was over the course of a couple of days. I spent a few hours building it, and I thought it looked good. I thought it looked really good. And the guy came and looked at it, and he was like, yeah, it looks like shit. Just deleted the whole arena I just built, man. And then eventually I think I just quit being a staff member on that server after he did that. But funny story back in the day.
Oh, man. Yeah, Owen's done a great job on the map stuff here. And I had one moment where I got to decorate my house, and I immediately recognized that I am freaking glad I don't have his job. We would have a complete shit show here on the server if I was responsible for decorating and, building the map. It's amazing here what he's done in Outlands. I think it's a big part of why.
Oh, tremendously.
It's a big part of why this thing took off like it did.
The amount of work that he has to do, and more so Luthieus has to do, like The coding job that Luthieus has done here is certainly one of a kind. You just don't see the level of coding and thought on any other servers but Outlands. Truly a unique, one of a kind server. 10 out of 10, absolutely best server that's been made. Uh, Maybe not best rule set, to be fair, but best server, all things considered. Outlands, hands down.
All right, I think it's a good place to end it, man. Thanks for making the time to come on here and talk to me and share your side of the story. I definitely loved hearing it. And if anyone on here wants to refute this or have the opposing podcast, hit me up and we could talk. I'd like to get multiple viewpoints. So he threw some shade out there to Cash or our Money Guild. He threw some shade out there to maybe who else you throw shade at? Whoever else wants to come on here and refute it, come on here and we can hear the opposite side of the story.
Thanks for having me, brother. Had fun. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, man. Catch us next week. I've got a bunch of shows coming out in the next couple of weeks. We've got one with Trammy Surprise. He's going to go over his PvP vids, his tutorial videos. I got another Orc Part 2 and Orc Part 1 with Nerul, Aya, Kilgoo. And they'll tell you all about what it's like to be an Orc here in Outlands. I've got one with Chief Swirling Axe, who's going to cover the griefing playstyle here in Outlands. So that'll be an interesting one. I need questions for that guy too. So, all right, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Peace.